Are you ready? You got water, everything?
I don't have water, but I've had all my coffee, so fully caffeinated.
Fully caffeinated, ready to go.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, welcome, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is the Study Success Blueprint. Hello, my name is Matthew Mace. This is the Study Success Blueprint. I have with me Amy Bland today from Kiro Research. Welcome, Amy. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. It's great being here.
We start out every one of these podcasts with the same two questions. So, what in medical research is exciting you?
I think I'm probably most excited about the gene therapy stuff that's kind of being done. I'm not super knowledgeable about it right now, but I love seeing that there is some customization for patients, customization for those needs, and digging deeper into how we can treat people better and more accurately than just like a wide blanket of here, take this pill. It works great on most people.
I, I like that. It works on most people, we hope.
Right.
In your day job, what do you see the level of collaboration is between sponsors and sites these days?
I think it's getting better. And I think there's always a need for improvement. There seems to be a really strong desire from sponsors and from sites to do better in this space. I think there's just always this gap of maybe like a paralysis of like, I don't know where to start. So I don't really start, or I'm not really sure what to do. So I just don't do anything different. And so I think just the biggest thing that in that space is just being willing to try something. And if it doesn't work, let's try something else and just keep moving the needle forward, even if it feels really small. And even if you do fail, you have to know that, hey, if we tried it this way and it doesn't work, we still move the needle because now we know that doesn't work. It's not out there as a possibility. So, yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about. I feel like sponsors and sites both want it, they need it. It's how we're going to make clinical trials run faster, more efficiently, and all of those things. It's just the how that seems to be eluding most of us.
It's a $1 million question. What is moving the needle? What have you seen work in the past?
Open and honest communication, I think, is the first and foremost thing, right? I think when everybody's guarding their chips or not wanting to put all their cards on the table immediately, oh, I need to have the upper hand in these budget negotiations, or if everyone just puts it out here, hey, look, this is where we're at, this is what we need. Is there a way for us to make this work? Instead of, I don't know, like the veil of like, oh, I
Like
can't tell you that.
gamesmanship?
Yeah, yeah. So I just think open and honest communication is like the number one thing that I've seen that's worked really well. The number two thing I think is just remembering that you guys are partners and customers at the same time, right? Sites need sponsors and sponsors need site. It's not that either one needs the other more, one or the other. We both need each other. And so just remembering that, and that remembering that that's not just your partner, but that's also your customer, because you want them to come back to you on both ways. You want to do a good job for the sponsor as the site. You want the sponsor to come back to you with the next trial, and the sponsor wants to have a bank of good sites that they can refer to on a regular basis, that they have a good working relationship with.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
are the two, I think.
yeah. That sounds. I mean, I'm in the camp. I have as a sponsor, I have deference to sites. Quite a lot of the time, I always feel like, well, we need the sites. I mean, trials are getting wildly delayed these days. So having that bank of sites and whatever you say, Amy, I'll do for you, right?
Yeah, but I think it's the same way, like on the site side. We're over here going like, gosh, our goal this year was to activate 3 new trials, and we don't have 3 new trials activated yet. And so we're not going to meet our goals, and we've got to make sure that we've got revenue for the next, however long. And so I think there's some of that on our side too, where we're like, what else can we do for you? How do I make my site more enticing to the sponsor? What can I do to help you guys? So it's both ways.
Right. I think you put out all the stops on the trial that we worked together. What's the philosophy you try to get in your team about being that attractive site for a sponsor to come to?
I think the biggest thing that I work with my team on is that collaborative team approach. Once we have said yes to a sponsor, they're part of our team. And so we don't treat them as outsiders. We treat them as one of us. If there's a monitor that's coming in, they're now part of our team. They're here to help us. They're not here to nitpick us. It's like a mindset shift of outsiders versus insiders, included versus not. And then just remembering too that we're busy, but you guys are busy too. So your time is precious. Our time is precious. So how do we make sure that we're organized and ready for you guys when you walk in the door? Not just because we don't want to waste your time, but also because we've got 5 patients waiting after this meeting. So we can't let this meeting go long. So if we're not prepared for it, then we're wasting not just your time, but our time. And viewing the sponsor as equal.
It's a great advice. I mean, talk to me a little about the last practice that you're at. How big was that? And you've been in the space a little while. Feel free to run through where you've been and where you are now, and how do different sites change when you find that dynamic?
Yeah, so I kind of got my start in clinical research, I think the same way that most people do, which is accidentally. Like it wasn't something I was like, oh, I can't wait to do clinical research. It was like, oh, this opportunity fell in my lap. So let me run with it. Oh my gosh, I actually really enjoy this. It's going to be awesome. So I started out in a smaller private practice, and then I went to a university setting. Then I went to a major hospital setting, and now I'm doing consulting on my own. So I've kind of run the gambit in all the different ways to make sure that I guess I can easily say I've been in just about every setting in clinical research. So I have a good knowledge base of kind of what it looked like. And I think whenever you're in a smaller private practice, it's really easy because you have control of everything. I can control how long certain things take, and I can do this and I can do that. And then when you get to a university or a large hospital setting, you don't have control of very much at all. And so then you have to start looking at what can I do to make this other person's job easier so that they're able to meet my timeline expectations, and like working yourself, like you have in your mind, hey, this is how I want this to flow. Where do I see a problem? How can I overcome, not even overcome it, but like maybe work around it or work with that person or work with that department to make it a little bit better, a little bit easier, a little bit smoother? How can I give them everything that they need up front so that they're like, oh, thanks, Amy. I'm so happy to do your part of this project before I work on anybody else's because I don't have to go back 500 times to get what I need.
It's funny you say about accidental clinical trials. I think it's true. A lot of people fall into clinical trials. When you're on the outside training, you have no idea that this world exists. You see doctors and nurses and patients, that's about it. But there's this whole huge industry, multi-trillion dollar industry that supports innovation going forward. What drew you to it? Why did you keep coming back?
I think it's the structure. I'm a military veteran. I served 7 years in the United States Air Force, and it's some of the best time of my life. Like I loved it. I enjoyed all aspects of the military. And so I think that it was like an easy adaptation for me because in the military, there's already protocols. There's already things that I have to do a certain way. And when I was in private practice, a lot of times it felt a little more like fly by the seat of your pants, or, hey, like this doesn't exactly go the same way every time. And I was like, wow, this feels so much nicer, so much better, so much easier. It's structured. I kind of know what to expect. I know what we can and can't do. And I'm not saying that there's not that in like regular practice. Obviously, there is, but it just feels more governed, more respected. It's not me saying we can't do this. And I think maybe that's a little bit of it too, is I get to shuck the responsibility. The sponsor says we can't do this. The FDA says it's not me. I still get to be the nice guy. I'm just trying to keep you out of trouble. But yeah, I think that's what drew me to it.
That's good. Thank you for your service. When you look at structure and you talk about the small practice, right? Bringing in protocols in a small practice isn't a terrible idea, right?
No, and we did, but when you're the small private practice where I started research, we were a startup practice as well. So it was just for a while, it was just me and the doctor and this clinical trial, and so, I mean, it was a very organic kinda thing, like, "How do we do this, and where do we go from here?" We were still picking out paint samples for the walls while we were, you know, like, trying to start advertising for this clinical trial, and so it was very exciting, but like, "Oh, man," like, "I hope we get this all taken care of," and so we definitely did, add that in as once we kinda got rolling, and there was more text than just me, because there for a while, it was just me, and then we added a front desk person, and then, and so then we realized we have to start writing things down. You have to have a succession plan, and that's, like, one of the things that I'm super passionate about in clinical research space as well, because there's so many times where it's like a one coordinator position, right? Like this, it's a smaller practice. Maybe they have one or two coordinators, especially in optometry, ophthalmology, unless you're in the major hospital setting or in a university setting, that you have a whole research department. Oftentimes, in those kind of settings or in a private practice, it's like a one man shop. You have one person that does all the regulatory, all of the coordinating, all of the scheduling, all of the budgeting, everything. And so you have to have a succession plan. You have to have stuff written down for them. And so having things like written down and having a space to kind of record it all, besides a big fat 3-inch 3-ring binder that we all.
It's actually funny you say that. I spoke to a cardiologist a few months back, and he's at a roaring research practice, but they didn't do research for, a good 5, 6 years, and COVID happened, and that's fine. But it's funny how we didn't realize it, that clinical research rests on a really small number of people. Is that what you see when you go speak to your clients now?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients now are either research naive as a site or as an investigator. So they don't have any infrastructure set up or anything like that. And so what we've seen is, hey, I am a physician and I did research somewhere else, but now I'm working here and I want to do research, but we don't know how to start research at this site. Can you help us? Yes, absolutely. We can help you do that. Or we have a site that maybe the PI has retired and they finished out those studies, but they don't know how to get more studies. And they're kind of like, the PI retired and maybe the research coordinator moved on. And so they've kind of done research in the past, but we're not really sure how to kind of revive it and helping in that space. Or we have some clients that they are doing research, but they've just had a hard time finding new studies. They kind of relied on one sponsor for a while, and now that sponsor dried up in that space. So they've moved on to a different space, and so now they didn't diversify early enough on, and so now they're like, I don't know who to talk to, and I need more trials, and how can you help? So yeah, it feels like we get a wealth of knowledge in like one or two people at a place, and then it's not shared. And I what I have found is the most successful research sites, they include everybody. They let the front desk know, hey, you can't reschedule these research patients without checking with the research coordinator because there's a window that they have to be seen in. Or, hey, if you are going to reschedule them, here's where you can go to look to find out what window they need to be seen in, and just educating everyone within the practice too. Because, when I was in an academic setting, there's 37 doctors. Like, we as a research coordinator don't have time to review all of those charts that came in that day to see if somebody is qualified. But what I can do is I can go down and talk to those other technicians, nurses, and say, hey, we've got this research project. If you see a patient that has these three things and doesn't have these three things, can you send me their chart so I can review it for research? Kind of like a pre-screening sort of thing, so that they're doing some of the work for us. And hey, if you send me one that's qualified, we'll have like a candy bag or some energy drinks or whatever, with some kind of like a treasure chest where they could come and get something out of for, their little bit of extra help. And that's kind of one of the really great things that we've seen that's been super helpful, is that when you engage everybody, your chance at being successful in research is head and shoulders above your peers. If you're just got one person in your practice that you're depending on, that's a lot for one person, and chances are they're gonna, A, burn out really quickly, and B, you're not gonna be as successful as you could be.
Yeah. It's so activating the ancillary staff, the technicians, as you said, APPs, whatever it is. Do you think that always works?
I think it always works if you have the right workplace culture. I think that anywhere you go, if you've got a bad apple, it's gonna make anything you do hard. But if you have a team that likes to work together as a team, that is not constantly pointing fingers, if you foster this great environment, which workplace culture is a whole 'nother passion of mine, so I'll try not to get too deep into this, but if you have a great workplace culture where everyone wants everyone to succeed, and all of that really basically goes back to your hiring process and the environment that you continue to cultivate within your team. I think that it will work. I think if you have some folks that are like, "Hey, this is harder for me," or "I don't wanna do this," then maybe you need to evaluate whether or not you want that person to stay on your team. If you get a lot of pushback, and it always starts at the top, right? So if your PI, if your CEO, if your owners are passionate about making sure that you're working as a team and they're championing it, right? Like that goes a whole lot further than me, research coordinator, walking into this whole practice and saying, "Hey guys, this is what we're going to do." And everyone's looking at you like, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" So getting the buy-in from the top down is always a really easy way to kind of do that if you are seeing that struggle.
I'll indulge the leadership bit for a second because a recurring theme when I speak to CROs or sponsors or coordinators is the team is first. Like the team performance and optimizing that is everything in trials. Where does that come from within you? How did that instill? Is it, you know, your background training? Is it things you've learned over the years? Give us a little insight.
It's easy to say, "Oh, the military taught me how to be a great team player," but really in the military, like I was a one-man shop for a long time because my boss retired early and they didn't backfill the position. And so I was on my own for about a year and a half of my enlistment. And it was pretty early on. So I would love to be like, "Oh," but I did have great doctors that I work with that like pitched in and weren't afraid to like do the work that was not their work. They were helping me answer phones. And then I got to the private practice setting where I got to be a boss for the first time. And I remember this conversation with this really amazing administrator. And she looked at me one day and said, "Amy, you might have enlisted in the military a while back, but the people that work for you have never enlisted in the military and they don't expect to be treated as such." I was like, "Oh, okay." And that began my journey of how do I become a good leader that has a good team. Like I didn't even realize. And even now I am still working on it all the time about like, how is my tone? Did I say the right things? Did I give enough information before I started this conversation for these people to feel safe? Do they know that I care about them as people, not just employees, so that they can buy into what it is that I'm asking them to do? So I think that's kind of how I got started in somebody basically told me, "Gosh, you're a horrible leader." And I went, "I don't want to be horrible at this." And then I started reading a lot of really amazing books. There's such great content out there. I am a huge fan of the Table Group, and they have some great books out there. The Ideal Team Player. That's really how I do a lot of my hiring process. It's all about being humble, hungry, and smart. Humble meaning I can bring myself down and not feel like I have to be the greatest thing on the planet, and I can do whatever needs to be done of me. Hungry, meaning I'm motivated enough to work hard. And then smart is not intelligent, but emotional intelligence about how do you make sure that you can read the room? Like, did I hurt someone's feelings? Did I say something ugly? All of that. And we're all lacking in one space or the other, but the awareness and the willingness to work on it is really the most important thing. And so that's kind of how we did our hiring process. And that's how I built my amazing team at my last practice, and we had 0 turnover for, like, 3.5 years. Like, no one left.
Wow.
We were highly productive. I mean, you worked with us from a sponsor as a site. I would hope obviously, I feel like you enjoyed it enough to
The food
stay
was
in
good.
contact, but But, like, we try to always underpromise and overdeliver and just make sure that if we said we were gonna do something, we did it, and that kinda comes from building in that space. I truly value the fact that there were people on my team that are way better at things than I will ever be,
Yeah.
and I'm not afraid of that, and that's that humble part. You've gotta know, I am weak here. I need somebody that's better than me at this, and being willing to bring them in and let them grow, and honestly, if every single person on my team was like, "I've grown so much, I've got this amazing opportunity, and now I'm moving on to somewhere else," that would be, like, the biggest compliment to me, that not only did these people grow, they learned a lot. They're now highly sought after because of who they've become under my leadership. That's all I could really ask for as a leader.
Yeah, that's super inspiring, and I agree that the team dynamic in Arkansas was first rate. There's a humbleness that has to happen when it comes to clinical trials because it's not just a one-time transaction. It's as a sponsor, we're trusting you as the quality system of our product, and we're probably gonna have to be friends for a good, year to 2 years. So, we gotta know that we can trust each other and like each other to work. When you go into that setting or setting subsequently, how do you start with, "Okay, I'm coming to you, Amy, I wanna start a clinical trials unit, and where do I begin?"
So, there's the easy stuff. You got to have your SOPs, you got to have your refrigerator, you got to have your thermometer, you got to have all that stuff, right? But then you got to have the right people. And I have found that some of the best research coordinators aren't even in necessarily like medical background, right? It helps because they know some of the terminology, but they don't have to be an RN or an LPN or an MA, even like just somebody. One of the people on my team, she was a teacher. And so her desire to learn and to be able to do that. So I think you're looking for a few details, like a few things. You need somebody who's detail oriented, right? If somebody is, I can't sit down and focus on things, maybe the research isn't the right space for them. They're not going to be successful. So let's not set them up for failure. So you need somebody who's detail oriented, and you need to have people that care about other people. You can't have those folks that are whatever, just another person. Oh, they didn't, and those are the two things. That's it. You got to have those two things. And I mean, I have a list of interview questions that I ran through. If anybody wants them, they're welcome to email me. I'll send them my interview questions. But that's kind of like it. You've got to find the people that care and that are detail oriented. And from there you can teach them everything else.
Yeah.
There's great content out there. Like, one of my favorite things to train a new research coordinator or anybody that's coming into the research space is the clinical trials handbook. There's no, I have no financial disclosure. I just love the book. It makes training super easy. People can read through it. Gives you a lot of information really quickly, but in a digestible format. So I love the book. I think it's great. You can teach people that are interested and care a lot of things. And so I would say that's the biggest thing, is don't go only to those usual places where you find staff. Like, be willing to step outside of that space and find people that are maybe in like a different kind. Be creative about your hiring, I guess is what I'm saying.
And that creativity is interesting because yes, you need to have the smarts and do the certificates and make sure you do all the training, but teacher background is a perfect background. I care about people and I'm willing to learn, right? It
Yeah. Yep.
when when you've gone out to sites now, your clients now, do you think you can read whether they're gonna be successful or not successful when you enter? Like, are there positive flags? And I'm thinking now from a sponsor perspective. When I go to a
Mhm.
site, is there a red flag? Is there a green flag? When I speak to the site, what type of reception I get?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, responsiveness, I think, is the number one thing that you should look for as a sponsor and that you should be mindful of as a site. Nobody wants to wait a week and a half for an email response to be answered. We're all on a timeline. Time is money, specifically for the sponsors. But if you're not seeing a responsiveness, that's telling you one of a couple of things, right? I'm not a high enough priority for them, right? Which we've seen, a lot of major universities on a trial with us, and then they have zero enrollment on that trial. And you would think, oh, that giant name, why did they have zero enrollment? Well, they have like 50 other studies that are competing for your attention. And so, you're not a high enough priority to them. I would say the other thing that delayed response kind of tells you is that your team is overworked or your team is not organized enough, right? So if emails are going unanswered for multiple days without like a justification of like this person is out of office on vacation, and there's somebody else is filling in and trying to get back to you quickly, but normally a lack of response is telling you those two things, and that can kind of be like a big indicator, right? And if your principal investigator is saying yes, 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 and you're seeing this slow response, then oftentimes that's telling you the PI is saying yes, but what is the team saying to me? Like, are they saying that, hey, we're already overworked or we're feeling overwhelmed? I think the other thing is you can walk in and you can, as you're doing your site qualification visits, sponsors should ask some questions around kind of like, what's your culture like here? Tell me about your practice. Like, how have you personally contributed to team culture this week? And if people can't answer to you what their team culture is like or how they're contributing to it on a daily basis, then chances are they may not have a very strong culture, which isn't a bad thing, but maybe it's more of a yellow flag. Like, this team doesn't really like know who they are yet. They don't know where they're going. They're not moving in the same direction maybe. And I think, most of us as humans can walk into a room and feel it. If everyone's like head down, just doing their work, barely acknowledge you when you walk by, right? Or does it feel like overplayed? Like, hi, welcome. Here's the red carpet. Oh, stay on the red carpet. Please don't move off the red carpet. That kind of feeling. What are you hiding behind this red carpet for me? It's like, and so, I think those are the two extremes. Everything's, overplayed or people aren't responsive enough. Yeah.
I've been at many a site, and sometimes the relationship is a little bit forced, especially when there's the disconnect between, and it goes both ways, right? PI is really interested, site are really enthusiastic, and the response time from the sponsor, the CRO, is really long. Then it's like, oh, okay, clearly someone in the sponsor isn't vibing. And I think if you force a relationship, like, it's never going to end well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Any good positive trials you've been on recently, and then contrast that with any horror stories?
I want to start with my favorite horror story.
Go for it.
Early on in my career, we had a closet where we were storing our investigational product. And it was a shared closet, but like this section was mine. And the PI was very anti clutter. And so he was like, what is all of this in here? Do we really need all of this? Are all of these boxes empty? And I was kind of in the middle of something and not really paying attention. And I was like, yeah, I think so. He's like, that's it. I'm throwing them out. And he just threw out all of these boxes that we assumed were empty. And actually, one of those boxes had investigational product in it. And that was like that huge, like, oh my goodness, like learning moment that I will never forget in my whole career. It's like, don't touch. No, when he says, I'm tired of these boxes, I get up and I say, I will take care of it. Please don't touch anything. We need to open them all and make sure that there is nothing left in these. And so, yeah, I think that's like my biggest horror story. And then I think my favorite trial that I was a part of was, the HeartMate 3 trial.
Mhm.
HeartMate 3 versus HeartMate 2. It's just amazing to sit there and see these people that we're telling them, like, you don't really have much longer. There's really not much we can do for you. We can put you on the transplant list. A lot of them maybe weren't transplant candidates for one reason or another, but they were able to be in the trial. And like 7 years later, these people are bringing in pictures of their grandkids or telling you about like their kid graduating from college or whatever else. And so, like, just being able to see the longevity of what happens with those truly life saving opportunities is just heartwarming. And getting to hear about how their lives are doing and just knowing that their life was a little bit better from participating.
It's so nice to hear. I mean, trials are ultimately for the patient, and I think we get confused about that sometimes because we talk about the business of clinical trials and, you know, okay, there's a drug company or a device company that needs to sell something at the end, and we're a customer to them in the end, and you have your P&L, and hospitals can't be loss making.
Mhm.
But, if we can do something that brings innovative technology to a patient population, like that's the goal. When you talk about your team culture, is that the reason you existed? Is that what you were striving for? Is to bring technology to patients? Or is there a one-liner that you will recite it every day and this is the reason of our existence?
Yeah, we definitely had our own mission statement, and it's pretty long, and so I'll just kind of give you the Cliff Notes version. But yeah, it was to provide exceptional care and advances in technology to all of the area around us. We cared about getting the chance to bring technology to people that maybe didn't have an opportunity or this was their only hope. It's really, I don't know, it's really rewarding to go to a patient and say, I have this clinical trial. And if you can participate, yes, it's randomized. You may or may not get it. And so, like, that's kind of what we always clung to is like, hey, how can we help you get better?
Yeah.
That was pretty much the driving force for us.
I'll do a little bit of quick fire. Who's the most important at a site? Coordinator or PI?
Coordinator. I mean, let's be honest, we love our PIs and I'm a coordinator. I can't do that procedure and I can't do that procedure as flawlessly as, that PI. But when it comes to the bulk of running everything from day to day and knowing all of that stuff, I think that's definitely the coordinator.
Cookies or donuts?
Oh, I am a baker, so I love cookies.
Great. So that's the go-to bribe.
Yes, for sure, every time.
Best technology you've worked on other than Harmony?
Best technology. Hmm. I was part of some of the early MIG studies for glaucoma. So they are little shunts that go into the eye to help drain faster. And it was some of the most amazing thing that not only to see the procedure, to see how well it worked, and to see how it really helps a lot of people. If you have older patients who have arthritis and they're trying to squeeze eye drops in their eyes, chances of them actually getting the medication in, it gets a lot harder as people get older. And so giving them an opportunity to have something that made life easier for them and then helped save their vision was really wonderful.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the CRO space?
I am optimistic about good CROs. I think a good CRO is super valuable, especially to some smaller companies. The HeartMate study, it didn't start at Abbott. And so, like, some of those smaller companies, they don't have the means to pay to have all of that stuff. But being able to contract with the CRO, I think it's super viable, right? Because not everyone can partner with an Abbott. Not everyone's going to get bought out by an Abbott. And so, how do we move through those spaces without a CRO? I think good CROs will last.
I like the positivity. I'm always more in the negative space. Is there anything I should have asked you?
Hmm. You should have asked me about our new group on LinkedIn that we would like to encourage folks to join. It's called the Clinical Research Site Collective, and it is just a space for sites to come and hopefully talk and say hi. And does anybody have a study coming down the way? Connecting sites across the board.
That's cool. I'll check
Yeah,
it out. I'll send people your way.
check us out. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything else.
Good. Well, I appreciate you, Amy, for taking the time. You know, on a busy Wednesday, just before you start your day, it's always nice to chat and see what you're doing in the space and trying to help people grow.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I love that we've stayed connected after our time working together, and I am always inspired talking to you. I love the way your mind works and how you're constantly looking at problems in a new and different way.
That's super kind. We'll speak soon.
Sounds good.
I would like to thank Amy for joining me today. Please listen back to our previous episodes with Marco Young and Adam Walker, where we also discuss CROs. If you like this and would like to listen to more, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. Join me again when I'm chatting to Catherine Greger from Florence Medical, as well as Ankit Bhatt, a cardiologist in San Francisco. So with that, I can leave you today. Speak to you very soon. I've been Matthew Mace, and this is the Study Success Blueprint. That's good. That's fun.
Yeah. Did I do okay? Sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like I don't always answer the exact question because my mind starts spiraling, and then I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even answer the question."
I'm going to keep that in.